Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, and we are calling to order a special meeting of the General Government Committee. The time is 8 a.m. We're going to go ahead and get started. So first, as always, is just roll call. I'm joined by Councilmember Leanna Dalhoff, Councilmember Michael Althauser. I expect Councilmember Kathy will be joining us shortly as well. But we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and proceed. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our March 18th special meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
There's a motion, and I will second. Motion by Councilmember Dolph and seconded by myself, Councilmember Althauser. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Moving into the substantive portion of our agenda, let's go ahead and start with item 4. That's ordinance number 2025-003, the Planning Commission composition. And let me pull up that item on my phone so I can see who's going to walk us through this one. Brad, are you going to help us with this item?
Yes, I unfortunately wasn't able to pick up the janitorial one, which would have been my preference. So
shoot.
This particular item is a request for the General Government Committee to place this particular ordinance on the May 6th City Council meeting for considerations with a recommendation to adopt. The background for this is state law authorizes the city to create a planning commission consisting of 3 to 12 members to be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. Currently, we have 7 members of the 9-member planning commission. In 1984, the city council established the planning commission as a 9-member board. And then there were some modifications done in 1993 to allow 1 member of the planning commission to be in the urban growth area. One of the issues that we've experienced lately is being able to fill all 9 positions. And one of the things that we've had discussions about is that because we have so many different boards now for requiring volunteers and so forth, and also the large size of the planning commission has made scheduling meetings difficult, and sometimes we've had to cancel because of lack of quorum. We are proposing to reduce the number of planning commissioners down to 7 to create a more manageable commission, make it easier to schedule meetings and more likely achieve a quorum. Again, the request is that this be placed on the May 6th City Council meeting for consideration.
Great. Leda, you have any questions?
Yeah. Brad, can you, with our other boards and commissions, can you remind us how many positions are on those in comparison to Planning Commission?
It's typically 5 to 7, and I think Planning Commission is the only one that has 9 members on it as a regular meeting commission that provides direct advisory recommendations to the City Council.
With the, when people apply with their interest for a board and commission and they do the form and it ranks them, recently I've submitted 2, forwarded 2. So if there's a challenge filling the spots, but we know that people have been submitting applications stating they want to be on Planning Commission and they haven't been responded back to. Is that because the city is waiting to have this discussion to lower the threshold?
No, not that I'm aware of. What I've, again, this is handled through the mayor's office, so they handle getting the applications and lining them up. The ones that I have seen recently and that we've been involved in interviews for have been typically Planning Commission is not always the first one. It's usually the second or third one. And in some cases, we've recommended that a person suggest they go on Planning Commission rather than another one just because of what their background is and what they could potentially bring. So at least for the past 3 or 4 years, it has been really difficult to, number one, see the number of applications and then have the people that are necessarily qualified for the Planning Commission to be a part of it. Now, part of the reason we're getting vacancies is multiple. We've had 2 recent commissioners have to leave the board because they actually left the city.
Yeah.
and so forth. So this has been an ongoing issue for us, just trying to maintain the 9 with what applications we've been receiving.
The other question I had is council has requested a study about a stipend for boards and commissions. And so I'm wondering where, and I see that's record time for me to ask a question and Lisa gets on video, is how does that align with reducing and where are we with that of identifying like what other jurisdictions are doing and what could be applicable to Tumwater?
Yeah, so with Kelly Adams on board, we are going to be able to embark upon that particular analysis of boards and commissions and having stipends for them. She has direct experience having done that in the city of Lacey, so we are hopeful to get that started right away. I think the issue of the 9-member planning commission is one that is not necessarily related to stipends and commissions, but it's rather, as Brad mentioned, trying to find enough people that are willing and able to and are qualified to be able to sit on the planning commission, and wanting to ensure that we've got a good, accurate representation of the community, including the urban growth area, and finding people who are willing to commit that period of time.
Yeah.
Planning commission is a heavy lift, particularly, as you know, this time of the tenure cycle. And so, yeah, it's intended to make it simpler to find enough people to ensure that we don't have to cancel meetings for lack of quorum.
Thank you, Lisa. And I know it could be both, where both could be true, right? I know someone who left because they had childcare issues, right? I know someone left because they had caregiving issues in the past. So it's both. And so as we move forward of what inclusion and belonging looks like and voices and the lenses that we have, I think they all tie in together. And if we can reduce barriers for some, but also streamline the work for staff so they can have the meeting, I think it's a win-win. So I'm in support of it, but also I know when it comes time, I mean, once every 10 years for the comprehensive plan elements, that's a heavy load for a smaller group to do. So I do have some concerns about reducing it, just because when I served, we took chunks and pieces and we were a stronger team together. So that's one of the hesitations I have about reducing it versus trying to do like seeing if stipends would help. And also knowing that there are 2 people who have submitted requests to join, and then there's another one who's in an urban growth area who has interest. That would be 9 right there. So I have some hesitations, but I understand the request.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I remember one of the frustrations I had when I was on planning commission was when, you know, you and I and it was usually Aaron and Terry would show up and there would be 4 of us and we needed that 5th person and then we would just all have to take off. Which, you know, we're asking members of our community to do a lot to show up and to work on things like the comp plan and things like that. So I'm not trying to begrudge anyone because life always gets in the way, even when you have the deepest of commitments to doing the work. But that is, you know, frustrating for us when we were members, frustrating for staff as well, who have to take time out of their lives to help try to walk us through things during the evening hours, times that they'd otherwise be at home with their families too. So I think it makes sense. It does make me a little sad, right? Just because, you know, ideally people would be breaking down the door to volunteer for these opportunities, but I think that the stipend will help with that in the future too. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion to place ordinance number 2025-003 Planning Commission composition on the May 6, 2025 council meeting on consideration with a recommendation to adopt.
So moved.
The motion by Councilmember Dolphin, I'll second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. That brings us to our next item, the 93rd Avenue Southwest and Case Road Southwest 10% annexation petitions. Brad, I think you're gonna help us with this one too.
Yes, it's been a while since we've actually had an application come in for annexation, so this will be a refresher for some, especially me, as I'm trying to remember the process that we go through for this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Let me know if you can see my screen now? Hopefully it's bigger than
Looks
usual.
good.
Thank you. So as mentioned, this is the 93rd Avenue and Case Road, 10% annexation petitions. I'm going to walk you through the applications. We received two separate 10% annexation petitions that are adjacent to each other, so we're treating them together. They also submitted at the same time the 60% annexation petitions because essentially we're talking about two parcels. I'm also going to walk you through the annexation process for the 60% annexation and talk a little bit about next steps in the process. A little bit of background. The owners of the two properties on 93rd are within our urban growth area, and they're requesting to be annexed. The parcels, I'll show you a map later. It's immediately adjacent to the southwest corner of the Olympia Airport on 93rd, just to give you an idea of where these particular petitions are located. They filed the petitions in February. They were deemed complete in March after they paid the application review fees. And so now we're operating under the 60-day rule of getting this in front of the council for discussion. Because, as I mentioned, the two property owners own all the property within the annexation area, they also filed petitions for the 60%. It's a two-step process. Essentially, I'll walk you through what the 10% and the 60% mean. The property owners have indicated their willingness to assume their fair share of the city indebtedness if they're annexed, and they're also willing to accept their existing land use designations and zone districts for their property. This language is actually from the state law, but with GMA, essentially with the joint plan already establishing land use designations and zone districts, there's really nothing to change or amend as part of the annexation process. We're not aware of any pending applications before the county for these properties, and we haven't been made aware of any proposals for development on the properties. Again, I mentioned that the annexation area is two parcels located northwest of the intersection of 93rd and Case. It's a little bit more than 10 acres total in size. Both the parcels have light industrial designations, and there's overlay also with the airport being adjacent. For the most part, the properties are undeveloped. There's a house and some outbuildings, but there's nothing else on the property. The first application for property number one, this is 1020 93rd Southwest, owned by Nathan Wonk. It's about 4.87 acres. It's that orange rectangle you see off of 93rd. The black line is the existing city boundaries. The airport, which isn't necessarily shown on this, is basically just on the other side of Case Road from this. The second property is between property one and the city boundaries. So these are both one taken together adjacent to the city. There's no property address for this site as there's no building. It's owned by John and Diane Elwin, and it's about 5.87 acres. So the initial request for the city council comes in the form of the 10% annexation position. Again, it's a request that the city council set a date not later than 60 days after filing of the petition for a meeting with the property owners. And since the application fees were paid in mid-March, we're within the window for the council to set up a meeting in May, early May for that. So the request for council to consider is whether the city council is willing to accept or to reject or to modify this particular annexation proposal. So all of those things are within the boundaries of the council's decision. This, again, is a petition, so this is a request by the council to consider this. Second item is whether the council is willing to adopt a new land use designation for the area to be annexed. Again, the joint plan had established land use designation for this area, so staff does not believe this is a necessary, that another land use designation needs to be accepted. And then also whether the council will require an assumption of the existing city indebtedness by the area to be annexed. Essentially, by the petition, the applicants have indicated they're willing to assume city indebtedness. And then the council is basically just saying we will require for that. So all of that is to be considered if the council, if you decide to go forward with scheduling this for the May 6th council meeting. The entire process is laid out by this graphic. So we've gone through the first box on the upper left. The meeting, again, is what we're discussing about setting up. Councilmember Aldhauser, go ahead.
I don't know if you're eventually going to get to this, and if you will, then feel free to not answer this question right now, but can you explain indebtedness in like a 101? I'm not totally remembering or tracking that concept.
Yeah, that's actually a good question, and I don't necessarily have an answer for that. Because I would have to talk with Troy about what the assumption is if in addition to taking on obviously the tax burden that exists currently for existing projects, what additional things would be required. But I can ask Troy to provide that information and have that answer for your May meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Brad, one question. Could you, in conversations with the two landowners, why do they want to be a part of Tumwater?
Primarily for permitting reasons. It's easier and it's a shorter process to go through the city process. I know the county review process has been lengthy for a number of reasons, but that's been the primary reason that I've been made aware of for them wanting to become part of the city.
So they haven't proposed any development, but they want to be in Tumwater because they think development will be easier. So they do have something in mind, but they just haven't presented it yet.
Exactly. They haven't shared what they would like to do on the property. But it is a common theme that we've heard from whether it's this particular property or other properties within our urban growth area. And it's not necessarily that our regulations are not as strong as the counties. It's the length of the review process that typically comes up.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Okay. So if the council chooses to accept the petition, then they also will make, I think at the meeting, we'll ask the council if they would like to accept the 60% petition since it represents the same properties. We will need to do a review of the legal sufficiency of the petition, meaning that the confirmation of all the signatures. And then there will be a formal hearing by the council on the petition to say yes or no, we're willing to accept this annexation. That's not the end of the process. There's the step with the Boundary Review Board to review this. Essentially, the Boundary Reviews Board process is an opportunity for other districts and agencies to weigh in on the annexation if there are particular concerns. Primarily, I think the two that will have the most interest, obviously, are the county and also the fire district, East Olympia Fire District, because typically when we're annexing a portion of another fire district into the city fire department. If the review goes through from the Boundary Review Board, then we complete the annexation process. So staff recommendation for to consider as we go forward to the city council meeting in May is that the accept a proposal annex with no modifications. We don't propose any changes to land use designations or zone districts. And again, requiring that the annexation area assume city of deadness, and I will clarify exactly what that means in time for the next meeting. So this is again just a request for the General Government Committee to consider scheduling this for your May 6th City Council meeting. Again, if you decide to accept the proposal, then the 60% petition will be drafted and circulated. Now, this would only occur if the council decides to amend the annexation area to expand it. And then we would, ask the adjacent property owners if they're willing to sign the petition and so forth. Again, final approval occurs only after review and approval by the Boundary Review Board, and then also a public hearing and a vote by the council. So did you have any questions?
There we go. I was trying to unmute. Leah, do you have any questions?
No.
My only question, Brad, is I think for the next steps, it said discuss it with the applicants. Does that mean that they'll appear before the council at our council meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Again, it's a formal petition from the applicants to the council. So in terms of our role as staff, is we're basically helping the conversation between the property owner and the council here.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions either. Sounds like we have some next steps. So with that, I would entertain a motion that we place the 10% annexation petitions on the May 6, 2025 City Council consideration calendar for the council to decide whether they will accept the proposed annexation and whether we will require the assumption of city indebtedness by the area to be annexed.
So moved, but I would like that motion to be a little bit longer next time, please. So thank you.
I will do my best. And so will Brad.
Yep.
All right, it sounds like there's a motion from Councilmember Doff and a second from myself, Councilmember Althauser. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. That brings us to item number 6, which is and item 7, which are amendments to some existing contracts regarding the comp plan. Brad, I think these ones are both you as well.
Yeah, so you will be seeing 3 of these. The first 2 will be this month, and the next month we'll have the last of the 3. The first one we'll talk about today is an amendment to the contract with the Department of Commerce for the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Climate Planning Grant. What this is we're not changing the amount that we're receiving or necessarily the end date, which is June 15th of this year. It's changing the deliverables. When the original grant was drafted, the due date for the update was June 30. And so the intent was to provide as a deliverable as part of the grant, the final adopted climate element and also the bike and pedestrian plan. What this does is change the scope to indicate that we'll provide drafts of those documents. We are on schedule with producing these. We have 2 different consultants working for this particular contract. On the climate element, we expect that after legal review, we'll have the management team review the element draft. And then the bike and pedestrian plan is currently being drafted by our other consultant for the transportation plan. All of these documents you'll see probably in June and July before they're folded into the larger comprehensive plan update. So the request again is that this particular amendment be placed on tonight's council consent calendar for approval and then the mayor to sign.
Great. Pretty simple item. Any questions?
No.
Okay, me either. So I would entertain a motion that we place the First Amendment to the contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce for the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update Climate Planning Grant on the April 15th, 2025 Council Consent Calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. Not quite as long as the prior one, but love.
So moved.
There's a motion and by Councilmember Doff and seconded by myself. Councilmember Althauser, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes unanimously. And Brad, the next item, item 7, is essentially the exact same thing, but with a different grant.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the difference here is first of all, the grant is for the periodic update through Commerce. And that particular grant covers 2 different things. One is some funding for the transportation plan. And the second was some funding for an update of the economic development plan. Because the economic development plan is not a state requirement and we're in the process of hiring a new economic development coordinator, this particular amendment not only changes the scope of work to remove the final documents and call them draft documents as part of the submittals, but it also shifts the remaining funds of $12,500 from the economic development plan to the transportation plan. We anticipate that we'll be picking up the economic development plan update later this year, but we wouldn't be able to use the funding because this would end at the end of June of this year.
Great. Leanna, any questions or anything?
No, I'm good.
Same. Okay, well, with that, I would entertain a motion that we place the First Amendment to the contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce for the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update, GMA Periodic Update Grant on the April 15th, 2025 Council Consent Calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
So a motion by Councilmember Dodd and seconded by myself, Councilmember Althauser. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our last item, item number 8, the service provider agreement with Bobby and Amanda's Cleaning Service for janitorial services. And Chris, I think you're gonna help us with this one.
Hello, thank you. Let me just,
There we go.
a little lighting issue here.
No worries.
Hi, I'm Chris Graham. I'm the facilities manager for the city of Tumwater. And I'm here to present you with the new contract for our janitorial services for the city of Tumwater. The previous contract expired at the end of March. So this is a new service provider agreement that will cover us through March 31st, 2028. A little background. We went through an RFP process and we obtained 10 different proposals from different janitorial service providers. We, after we received all those proposals, a panel of 4 of us scored all the proposals and we chose the highest scoring service provider, which was Bobby and Amanda's Janitorial Services, who was our incumbent. As far as recommended action, we asked that you place the service provider agreement with Bobby and Amanda's Cleaning Service for janitorial services on the April 15th, which is tonight, kind of a quick turnaround. 2025 council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
Great. My only question is just how does this compare historically in terms of funding levels to the prior contracts? Is this pretty much in line with what we have historically spent on these services? Obviously, there's increases for inflation every year and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, with inflation, there was a little bit of an increase, and we've also seen an increase just in requested services. Just like one example, the gym at the police station didn't used to be part of our, you know, purview, and now we do clean that. So our list of services has grown a bit, as well as our annual and semi-annual services. So, but overall, it's relatively in line with what we've paid in the past.
Okay. Leanna, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Looking at the contract, could you show me where in the contract where we talk about preference or requirements for certain green certifications or sustainable products in providing their service?
Yeah, let me. I don't believe it's specifically laid out in this SPA. That is something we require, but yeah, it's not actually spelled out in this SPA.
Okay. Could someone, not you, Chris, someone follow up? If it's required, then why wouldn't it be in? Or can someone circle back and show where the request for proposal, where there's what section regarding specifications and certifications that are required or preferred? And can you tell us what what they're using that are green supplies to provide the services?
So So I can jump in just real quick and either Karen or Chuck will follow up and let you know, respond back to you about the SPA requirements as well as the RFQ, but I'm gonna let Chris answer the question about the types of products that they're using because he has that familiarity.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say currently, on the previous contract, this wasn't necessarily included. So there are some products that will have to get phased out in this next contract cycle. So yeah, I'd say right now we're kind of like 50-50, and there's some products that will need to get swapped out that are just more of like general cleaning products.
Great. Is that documented somewhere? Because that would be awesome to be, I see Chuck, just some template moving forward with all goods and services that what they're using has fewer toxics in it, right? Because reducing exposure to staff and the people providing that service would be awesome.
Okay, if I can jump in, we can certainly get that list together, and this contract has evolved over the years as we've become, well, I guess we've become more conscious about what we're using and the susceptibility or the reactions that even city staff or the public have to the products we use. One, you have to really concentrate on cleaning and killing bacteria and making sure things are safe for people to touch surfaces and all of those things, especially as we went through COVID, we saw that. So we did change a number of products, but we can come up with a pretty comprehensive list about the products we use and why they're used and what we've changed. And also, as we progress, it's not listed in the contract, but we've added a lot of services around recycling and food composting at all of our facilities. Just from Old Town Center, where we actually serve meals, to all the other city facilities that just have break rooms and staff eating things and going through the compost process with that. So I think we're very cognizant of all of those things. There's just maybe not well documented. So we'll see what we can get together.
Awesome. I would love to review that. Just that there's some easy fixes to streamline efforts regarding going to verify products on like green specifications that have already been developed by Department of Enterprise Services, right? So the work is there. There's an environmental calculator that you can even put in the contract saying, check your product before it's being used. And you can also just say a preference of like the top 5 certifications, right? Design for the environment, safer products, right? Cradle to cradle. There's elements to say, this is where Tumwater is going, and we want people who are providing these goods and services to align with that. So it's documenting what Tumwater is already doing, which I think is awesome. So thank you, Chuck and Chris, for that background.
Great. Do we have any other questions? Are we ready to take action?
I mean, I always have questions, but I'm good for now.
Noted. With that, I would entertain a motion. We place the service provider agreement with Bobby and Amanda's Cleaning Service for janitorial services. The April 15th, 2025 council consent calendar with recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
There's a motion, and I will provide a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes unanimously. I believe that takes us to the end of our agenda. So if there is no other business, I believe we are adjourned. Thanks everyone for a very efficient meeting this morning. It's appreciated. Have a good day.